What's going on, everyone? This is Star, and welcome back to the channel.
Hello there.
Well, my friends, we are smashing our way through 2024. As we get closer to April and the release of Stellar Blade, we're getting a lot more information about this new hack and slash from Shift Up. My previous Stellar Blade videos did amazing. We went over a lot of the details that have been confirmed by the developers themselves. Today, we get a look at the official box art for Stellar, which reveals some previously unknown information. The images of the box art come to us from an X/Twitter user named Genki Japan. They're doing the Lord's work out there, so shout out to them. We've got some juicy stuff to get into today, so let's check it out. Before we take a look at the box art, there were some combat details that have been elaborated on that I thought was worth going over, because I just started playing Shift Up's mobile game, NIKKE, and there's a lot of similarities between both games. We know Stellar features a lot of combo-oriented combat, but it's also thoughtful in that you have to read enemy patterns and make precise parries, dodges, and counterattacks. We've now learned that there's something called the beta gauge. We can see it down here in the bottom left of the gameplay sections of the trailers, labeled as BE. Players fill it up by parrying or dodging attacks, and when you have enough stored up, you can use some of that gauge to do various skills, like piercing through armor or interrupting enemy combos. We can see a few instances of it when we slow the footage down and watch the gauge. You can see it grow with parries, and Eve will use it to do some kind of action. There's also a burst gauge that Eve has right above the beta gauge, this one labeled as BU. Eve builds up the burst gauge with back-to-back parries, and you use it to trigger buffs and big, powerful attacks. That's very similar to the burst gauge in NIKKE, where you fill it to perform some kind of ultimate ability. NIKKE is also a great game, by the way. I thought the high reviews on the App Store were just because of the pretty women, but no, the game itself is actually surprisingly good. That's another reason I'm really hyped for Stellar, because if it's anything like NIKKE, then the game will speak for itself. It's a weird feeling because I expected a really shallow gameplay experience from NIKKE. I thought the jigglies were 100% the appeal of the game, but having played it a bit, I fully get it now. I hope the same will be true for Stellar, but now let's take a look at that box art that was photographed by Genki Japan. So Genki had visited a Yodobashi Camera, which is an electronics retailer in Japan. This location was in Tokyo, and the store had a physical Stellar Blade display set up for people to walk by and check out. The display had some physical copies of the box art, which Genki had taken the liberty of photographing for us, and the back of the box revealed some interesting things. First and foremost, the game is a lot smaller of a file size than I first anticipated. I expected Stellar to be on par with games like Lies of P, or maybe even Jedi Survivor, those two games ranging anywhere from 60 to 120 gigabytes in file size, but Stellar is significantly smaller, coming in at just about 35 gigs to download. That's relatively small compared to other games. It could have something to do with the fact that Stellar was made on Unreal Engine 4, as opposed to 5, which is probably a lot more resource intensive. The box art pictured here is the Japanese version of the game, and Genki elaborates a bit by translating it, saying, "Here is the back of the box. It says it requires more than 35 gigabytes free storage capacity. It's still early, so it might not be final, not sure. I was imagining the game will be around 50 to 60 gigs, but we'll have to wait and see. I was imagining a 60 gig download also, so if it's only 35, that'll make my PlayStation very happy. I'm running out of space on that thing." But the display also confirms another really important detail, that there will indeed be physical copies of the game. Probably not a huge shock to some, but as I cover more and more games this year, I'm realizing how important having a physical copy is. The Battlefront Classic Collection, which is another game I'm covering, does not have physical copies, and the fans aren't too happy about that, so it's nice to know that we can literally get our hands on this one. There was also an update to the preload date. Before, we were told that preloads would begin on April 19th, a good week before the release, but according to this article on Twisted Voxel, the preload date will now be on April 24th instead. Maybe some things got shifted around, but in either case, if you do end up preloading the digital copy, you'll automatically get the latest update pre-installed. Physical copies will need that additional download though, and there's probably going to be an extra day one patch like most games have these days. So far, everything I'm seeing from this game has been fantastic, and I cannot wait for April 26th. Today's update was a bit of a short one. That's all the new information we have. If you enjoyed the commentary, let me know by giving the video a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give it a thumbs down. Either way, consider subscribing for more Stellar Blade videos. This has been Star, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.